see it your way. No way. Gasoline and propane. More flames. Oh no. No more snowflakes.
We can all get along, but there's no stopping. Ay, everybody's wrong, that's the real problem. Ay, they don't want to hear it, but they still talking. Ay, soon enough, we running out of options. Ay, this ain't gonna end till it's in the coffin. Ay, we ain't gonna be friends till we try to squash it. Ay, I don't know how we can make amends or we drop it. Snowflakes melt when it's hot, kid.
Y'all are so fake. Oh no. The forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa. You can make us see it your way. No way. Gasoline and propane. More flames. Oh no. No more snowflakes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the HeartMind Expressions, the Fab Four. Maria will be absent for today, and Dr. Bloom should be joining us as soon as he is available. But I have with me the fabulous Sue McClure with me.
Hey,
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. It's been a crazy week of
What week have not we had that wasn't crazy?
good point. No, but I think specifically this one, just because I think a lot of people are just mad dashing for the holiday. So
Yeah.
that one is a little bit more than usual, I guess. Maybe depends on the person, I guess. But so let's get into some of the things that we wanted to talk about.
Actually, one of the things I actually wanted to get into, just super quick, was
yeah, sure.
you know, we kind of had a meme that was going around that talked about, hey, you know, don't talk about the there we go. Hi, Dr. Bloom. There you
Dr.
go.
Bloom.
Welcome. There you go. But anyway, what was going on? There was a meme that was going around that talked about, hey, you know, don't kind of bring up things about to the normies, you know, any disclosure stuff. Just bring a nice bottle of something and just keep your mouth shut. And one of them was Rittenhouse and the other was Trump wine. Well, the people that made the Rittenhouse rye whiskey, they sent out an apology that people are buying the Rittenhouse whiskey to celebrate his winning of the case. And apparently the company felt awful about this. And I'm like, you guys made sales up the roof and you're apologizing.
Because they're woke,
yeah, exactly. And so I just was like, oh my gosh. And so it's stupid because you're pushing all these customers away, basically. Yeah. So it was a really, really bad PR
once
move.
You go woke, you go broke.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, in this case, a profit is a profit is a profit. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything nice to say, just say thank
Shut
you for your business and go on right there.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
And say nothing.
It was a very bad business move, you know, putting out the tweet. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah. I actually wanted to try it. I was curious about it, but now I feel like not buying it. So
that's the funny thing about these things. It's there have been many times where they'll have like a woke company talk about something and they're like, we don't need your business if you don't like these things, and then everyone's like, nope, and then all of a sudden you lose like tons of business, like quarter of your business right then and there.
Well, it's just like at the business, you know, it seems like basically everybody, you know, the expression everybody's going to go across the street if your business is not going to be it. So, you know, I mean, the Coca-Cola did it and look what happened for Pepsi. Pepsi was probably cheering on because, hey, Coca-Cola screwed up, you know. And I'm just waiting for the right or the left side of Twix to say something.
Well, the funny thing about the Coke Pepsi thing was that Coke did something and it screwed up their business, but then Pepsi had to deal with the fact that they were dealing with supply shortages, so they couldn't even capitalize it if they wanted to, because they were dealing with aluminum and plastic shortages, from what I understand, at the same time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they could make another 5,000 bottles because they didn't have the plastic to make the bottles.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Hmm.
Well, they could have done back away with glass. I don't know if they were short of glass too.
Well, that's the problem, is that we have the raw material, we have the resources. It's just we don't have the the way to make them at the
Yeah.
moment. Because there's a lot of materials that are not made within the country, and if they are made in the country, then you have labor issues, and if it's not a labor issue, then it's a supply. It's like it's like a dartboard, really. There's like a dartboard of what is the issue we have today.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with all this supply chains and stuff going on and everything. They're all having some serious problems at one way or another, and it's even gotten to the point where some of them are starting to think about closing their businesses because of it.
Wow.
You know?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of businesses now that are just like closed because they just don't have the manpower. I know there was a White Castle not that far away from me. They closed the entire restaurant down and said go to another location because we couldn't staff it.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you having any of that where you are a doctor?
You know, here's the problem. I don't really leave my house enough here to being in a slave state to really kind of see the effects of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I rarely go to restaurants, and I don't really go to stores that often, you know? So what in a typical kind of pre-COVID environment, I might see a pinch. You know, it's bad to say, but most of the stuff that I get is from Amazon. So, you know, I've noticed a delay in terms of shipping, but and obviously, you know, you're feeling it at the pump and online with prices and whatnot. But that's kind of the biggest ouch that I experience with it all. But I've also tripped a lot of fat too. Like I was like third or fourth generation at this really kind of posh athletic club, like the big name in town. And they became so woke that I'm just like, oh, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, I don't need this agenda when I'm just trying to work out, you know?
Yeah.
And everything was just kind of switching. Like they were firing these long-term employees of like 30, 40 years, but then spending millions of dollars on revamping the lobby or spending money on having these outside contractors come in to assess how racist the club is, you know, and it's just
my gosh.
like, okay, that's it. I'm done, you know? And then they were going real big brother because they were going to, they added all these features, which was no point kind of going into what they are. But one of those is that you have the option of wearing a wristband as you go throughout the club. And it wouldn't surprise me if at some point they add another wristband to see if you're fully vaxxed or just partially, you know?
Yeah.
So, because you're going to have to show proof of that soon. And I just thought, no, I see the writing on the wall. I already see the trajectory of where it's been. I can save that money and I can redistribute that in a car payment, you know, or who knows what, lots of different methodologies. So anyway.
Well, it's interesting to see some of the states kind of locked down. Some of these states have these different rules and different levels of how extreme they're going to go. And it just makes me think about it. It doesn't make any sense if you have a few states doing this and a few states locking down really hard, a few states open up completely all the way. And it just feels like the ones that are locked down completely, it's almost like having, you know, a peeing section in the pool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it feels like to me, you know. It doesn't make any sense. You know. So I'm not.
And I honestly, at this point, I would not want to go to a public pool with all the spike proteins coming out, you know? If you know it's transferable through saliva, like if you kiss someone or share a drink, why in the world would you be in a giant swimming pool full of those things?
I mean,
No, the hot tub would be
if I
worse because then it would breed it real fast.
That's true. Yeah.
you know, if I remember correctly, these things transmit through all different types of fluids. If I remember
Mhm.
correctly,
Oh yeah.
it's saliva, blood, um,
Semen.
personal semen, or
Wouldn't it be the moisture from our pores anyway?
I don't
mean,
know
we can-
about sweat. I haven't
Yeah.
heard about that. So maybe it
Well,
is.
even if it isn't sweat, we still give off heat because you can tell if you lean your arm against a piece of glass, it will fog up. Just
Yeah.
not as you know.
It reminds me
So-
of like the nanoparticles, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's an argument that everybody on Earth at this point has the smart dust to some degree in us. So
Yeah.
who's to say that couldn't be the same argument here soon enough with the new, spike
Yeah.
proteins?
Yeah.
And did you guys hear about the newest iteration of the virus? There's a new strain.
Omicron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Omicron. Yes.
So
It
mhm.
looks like they're ahead of schedule because that wasn't supposed to come out until what, May or something. So they're ramping up the schedule.
Mm.
They've lost the narrative. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They thought they were supposed to have this be a very slow burn. It was supposed to last several years, and what would have taken 5 to 7 years, they have
Trying
burned
to
away in
squish it
16
into
months.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. I went on a podcast this afternoon, and that's what I was talking about. He's like, do you feel hopeful about the future, and like, where do you lie with things? And I was saying, like, yeah, I still do feel like the good guys are in charge behind the scenes, because what they're doing is they're forcing the cabal's time frame to be sped up. So
Yeah.
all of their agenda that they wanted to roll out had their own time frame with it. And
Yeah.
even when you look at like when COVID hit, and then with BLM, right? And like how
Mhm.
they matched almost on par with one another, that was meant to roll out separately. So you
Yes.
have the race riots and everything that was going on there to not coincide with this whole worldwide plague that was going on. And so with
Yeah.
that double whammy, it kind of, the rug got pulled out from underneath them. And
Yeah.
then with the jab, this is why Trump really emphasized Operation Warp Speed. Remember that? About how
Yeah.
they're
All
all
the
like,
time, warp speed.
yeah, and they were all pushing back
Yeah.
against him, Fauci and all of them. They're like, oh, you'll never get it out by the fall and whatnot. And he got it within 2 months. He got it
Yeah.
out, because he knew what was going on, you see? So he was like, no, we got to speed things up because I want to get this jab kind of getting going before I leave,
Yeah.
And so he did. And even now, I mean, just the speed of like with Delta and now this new one, and there was Lambda and all these kind of moo that was going on. So what's happening now, if you look at things from like a spiritual, energetic point of view, what's happening is this old paradigm of this stagnant energy of fear, control, anger, low vibration, all of it. It's not sustainable anymore. So they're throwing everything that they have is kind of like death blossom approaches. But the problem is it can't gain any traction. And so plus the degree of how quickly people are waking up, they're seeing right through it, So, okay, Mr. MD, like how many masks do I wear? None. As you said on 60 Minutes, 1, then you go to 2, then you said we have to wear eye protection, then you go back to 1, like make your mind up,
Yeah.
And like the jab, like the CDC said, okay, but if I get it, then I get my donut and then I don't have to do anything else and I can go back to living life as normal. And then less than a month later, now I have to wear the mask again and it's all the same rules as it was before. And like people are starting to see like, wait a minute, I don't think I was sold a good bill of goods. You know what I'm saying? And now I've got to get the booster, so.
And then you also have the issue of like the Red Cross coming out saying, only unvaccinated people can donate blood because they have the plasma within there, or
Interesting.
what is that?
I haven't heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Red
Yeah.
Cross-
They want the clean blood.
Yeah,
They want that because you can't, because from what we're
that's not
seeing with-
transparent or anything, is it?
No.
well,
I mean,
and then they're talking about how transfusions had to be done as a specific way, kind of. And once again, I have to constantly go back to the AIDS epidemic of the 80s because we're dealing with similar key players with this.
True. That's true.
I mean, Fauci was very active in both of them,
Very active.
and we're seeing
right.
very similar things. I mean, even when we go into like the PCR, he was talking about the PCR in the 80s at the same time.
Mhm.
So and some people are talking about how this may be, um, they created an AIDS like concoction,
I've heard
right?
that.
Where that's the reason why they're having issues with um, the plasma at the moment,
Mhm.
because you can't. I think they were saying that you can't make what's that called? Convalescent plasma, I think it's called.
Hmm.
The one of the experimental treatments that they're talking about. I think
Mhm.
so. Um, so
Well, this is
that was
yeah. This is the largest.
finish with your.
When we were younger, we were playing a game called Cooties, and it was just us on the playground. Now this
Yeah.
is a worldwide cootie game,
Yeah.
and and seriously, this is the biggest flash mob I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and it's kind of cooties on both sides, because
yeah,
it's cooties on their side for us because, it's like, ooh, why haven't you taken all 21 bajillion of your shots yet? But it's cooties kind of to some degree for us on them. And this is where we have to kind of be careful because you don't want to put out the same energy of fear or anger or frustration
Yeah.
that they're
Mhm.
doling out toward us. But
Yeah.
for me, it's like there just isn't enough data yet to really know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, show me the research that it's safe to go in the pool, that I'm not going to be affected, not from the virus, but from the spike proteins. Like if there's credible research that shows that it's safe, then I'm going to be at ease. What does it mean in terms of like sharing a drink or licking off of someone else's spoon that they gave you? Like, my
Yeah.
family with Thanksgiving yesterday, like they were making whipped cream, or my mom wanted to like have me take a sip of her Starbucks drink, and I'm just like, I don't know where to stand with all of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what's the threshold?
There hasn't been enough research or long term effects of this so far.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying with Warp Speed, 2 months. I mean, they threw this thing out there, and I think we haven't even finished stage 3 trials to the very least.
That's right.
Which and let alone the fact that we don't even know how this affects non-humans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dogs, cats, rats.
Even tigers. I think it was. There's a endangered kind of exotic species that I think it was even the Oregon Zoo that supposedly died of COVID, and
Yeah.
but it had gotten
zoo
the jab.
animals.
So you're giving the jab to all these exotic animals.
Yeah, the giraffes, tigers, and lions and bears. Oh my!
Oh my!
And then on top of that, now
We
you
might
have
think
like Merriam-Webster changing the definition of what a VAXX means, in the dictionary.
Third time. It's third time in 10 years. Third time.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, there was a very credible MD that was, giving testimony up on the Hill in DC, kind of talking about this recently. So
yeah,
this might be a little bit of a jab towards med students, but I'd be really upset to be the person that has to relearn all the terms,
right?
Like twice or 3 times while they're in studies.
I know.
Because they're like, wait a minute, they changed the definition of this. Now I gotta relearn this again.
It's kind of like the feeling when you have to reset the Jenga blocks over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
what do you think? I'd like to hear the very convincing cover story of why the flip-flop in definitions recently. What do you say, 3 times in 10 years? Like,
yeah.
Show me how they've done that with other words to that frequency.
I think I think the original definition, and this definition I believe was at least 70, 80 years old. back when we were doing the original shots of in the 40s and 50s, when we really started doing them more often.
Sure.
It was the one, all of us were very familiar with, which was, it was a weakened or dead particle of the particular item, and then it was injected to create an immune response.
Right.
That was the one that I remember growing up learning. And then they said, I think the second definition was that it was done through either natural or artificial means, something like that, where it could be organic or inorganic. And now it's with, and it's, and immunity is only created with these things and not without.
Right. That's right. That's the one that I saw.
Yeah.
Which I don't think the human body really cares how your definitions change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering when people are going to ask for any of these people who are authorizing these things for medical licenses or quackery at this point, because
where did they get the authorization from? Whom? And why? Why do they feel the need to change all of this?
I mean, we have lives on the line at this point. I mean, if we keep on changing things, then that means we're going to have to change how we diagnose people, how we treat people,
Right.
how we deal with rehab. It's just going to be a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect.
I think it's intentional. To be quite honest, I think it's incredibly intentional.
Yeah.
Definitely intentional.
And this is where kind of you're seeing in real time this splitting, right? We've heard it countless times in our community about the what do they call it? The bifurcation.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, is this an extension of that, right? With all of the changes and everything that's going on, that those that are kind of locked into the lower frequencies are just going to buy it and go along and not even have the fortitude or the insight to question anything. Those are like the real sheep. And then you have the people who are willing to take sovereignty and ownership over themselves, have the inner ego strength to question some things and say, I don't really know about that, and those are the ones that then kind of take this split that go off into more towards 5D. Now, I had asked Corey Good once about what his thoughts were with this bifurcation, and he said, yes, there will be a splitting, but it will only be short term, and then we'll kind of get back in sync again with the other pathway. I don't know how long short term is. I've heard other people mention that as well, and short term is going to be like 200 to 300 years. So I don't know if that is what he was thinking, or short term is just like a few years or a few decades. I don't know. And at the end of the day, none of us have a crystal ball, so we don't know anyway. We're just postulating and spitballing.
Well, actually, some of us do have crystal balls. Some of us do have crystal balls, but we don't know how to use it the same way the elders do.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I know for a while, what was his name? Torba, Gab. What I forgot his first name. He was talking about creating the alternate economy. Creating these things outside. Having all these doctors who have been relieved of their duties to create their own practices outside of the regular outside of the mainstream practice, or having stores do that, or other businesses do that, and compete against the mainstrein.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah,
almost
I've seen the splits already starting.
Like almost like a breakaway. And I know I've probably mentioned that 5 or 6 times at this point, but literally having a breakaway civilization, if you will.
Yeah.
Not not in like a malicious way, but in a way where both sides can have what they want, and a win-win.
Right.
And then if there wants to be some type of unification in the future afterwards, I'm more for it. It's just it's like a divorce, if you will.
Yeah.
Those sides don't like each other anymore, and I think it's the most amicable way to do things at that point.
Right. Well, Alex, I think you're already seeing that.
Yeah. I mean, originally
let's take
before
Florida, right? Even states.
Yeah. Yes.
Texas, Tennessee, places that are just like, you know what? You can do what you want in Oregon and Washington and New York and California and all over, but this is
Jersey.
what we're doing, right? Yeah, Jersey. Exactly. So if you want your freedom, you want to come here, then awesome. If you don't, then no one says you have to come to this state, and then as we titrate down, that's also true for like communities, right? I know a ton of people that are moving out of these blue states and they're moving more rural and they're wanting to start communities, and I had just some friends not too long ago where went over to their house and they were brainstorming about how to like literally set up their entire community with like medical and food and everything that would need to be sustainable like our elders used to do. And we don't even have to exchange or trade fiat Babylon currency, that you can do so through the barter system.
Yeah, the exchange of energy system.
Yeah.
Well,
And look at Michael Tellinger.
Pre-COVID, no, pre-COVID, there were some pockets in the United States and all over the world too. But in the United States, they were doing that. We had holistic doctors. They just didn't get too popular because Big Pharma was screaming really, really loud and all that. And they were everywhere on TV and people were just comfortable with it because it was common. I don't know about popular, but it was common, so common and popularity are different, people like to mess that together. The other thing is, it's the same thing with the financial system. A lot of people I've noticed in small neighborhoods especially, they were bartering back and forth. They would have little flea markets or street markets, if you will, and to basically just exchange goods. They had almost like the Egyptian caravan type of flea market day, where everybody just had these beautiful rugs. They laid them out, they put their goods on there, like a bazaar type day or whatever, and people would just walk up and down. It was done in a big parking lot or whatever, or something like that. And whoever ran it owned that parking lot anyway. So, I mean, and people were just exchanging goods. There was really no money involved. So, I mean, there was pockets of that, but now it's becoming more and more popular, especially, how they deal with medical issues. That there was right here, all of our naturopathy and holistic doctors, they're full to the brim. They can't take any more new patients right now. There's just so few of them. There's a lot of them, that there's so few of them compared to the demands. And it's the same thing with the whole money thing. We know that the whole fiat and the money market is going kapuka, and nobody wants to pay the type of money that's needed for things. So everybody is slowly starting to look after each other. It's already really ramping up compared to what it was pre-COVID. So we are seeing the changes, and we are seeing the split where we will see one side of the world just kind of look after each other. We have our own type of doctor. We have our own type of system, how we care for each other and stuff like that. The other side will probably be kissing Big Pharma up the rear end and, whatever, and they'll just probably die off on their medicines, and stuff.
Yeah.
But, it's just that we do have to let that whole set of free will to allow people to make the decision to do it. One, the problem is, what they have gotten us to do is fight amongst each other. We have both sides have been fighting and batting heads and saying, no, we're right. No, we're right. And it's just that, and we have to stop doing that and say, look, you got your opinion on how you want this to run. We got ours, and you're just going to have to.
That's it. Because remember, they want us divided.
Yeah.
They don't want us to have.
We are dividing, though.
We are.
We are dividing, but uniting at the same time.
You dividing meaning being divisive. Those aren't the same thing. You can divide without being divisive.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what's going on here is those of us that are kind of more at the tip of the spear are saying, you know what, it's futile. It's a waste of my energy to try to sit there and convince anybody of anything. I'm going to stay in my own lane. If you want to wake up, awesome. It's on you. That's where I've been. I've gotten to the point now. I'm like, look, family, friends, if you want to like wake up, then awesome, great, good on you. I'll give you a brownie point. And if you don't, then it's your life. It's your soul contract. It's your, trajectory. I'm not going to take any more of my energy and try to devote toward even sharing information with you.
It's almost like a collective devolution, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, it is very much.
Yeah.
I think it's really amusing how that all of a sudden became a thing, and you're like, wait a minute, that's actually kind of what's kind of happening here.
And like overnight too, Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, the whole system doesn't work.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked in a while. Might as well just.
It's very much pre-COVID. I mean, even the Trump years, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
they
Oh yeah,
scream and
definitely.
shout and
I
get
mean, I
angry,
remember.
and it's like over no facts, really, over nothing. Like, show me proof
I
of
re-
why you're so upset.
I remember seeing this stuff, late Bush years even.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it wasn't very common at
Yeah,
that point in time, but it was definitely you definitely saw signs of it.
yeah,
Heck, what was the Tea Party?
yep. And the Occupy movement, remember that?
Yes, Occupy.
Mhm.
Uh, then you had oof, going back that far. There's
Mhm.
not very many. And then you also have the New Hampshire Free State agenda.
Mhm.
So I mean, there have been signs that this was going to be going that direction, but once again, we press that fast forward button. What used to be taking 5-10 years
Yeah,
is taking months, if not
yeah.
sometimes weeks.
Well, I mean, it's
And
even in a New
it's
World
just
Order book. They
yes, it
talk
is.
about anarchy on both sides.
Mhm.
Well, and here's the funny thing: is that anarchy is not inherently a bad thing, right? And
Right.
anarchy, in its purest form, is just not having centralized rule, and
Yeah,
that has been something that has happened historically a lot.
Yeah.
What is the barter system? I
Yeah.
mean, that is anarchy in a
Right.
economic sense.
When the
That would be collective rule.
mm,
This person's good with that. That person's good with that. How does a community run, right? Uh, and then if we need a group of people to make a decision, these people are the most experienced in these situations. There you go. Um, you know,
like
I,
in the
I
Babylonian era, remember that? Uh, You know how
what,
the Babylonians they had they had these set of rules, but there was people that were trying to go against them. Do things I guess their own way and stuff, and it causes
ah,
rifts.
yeah, yes. I had to think for a second. I'm like, wait a minute. Babylonians had a king. It was like, yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw
but yeah,
you for a loop.
no, I always thought you were going to go to revolutionary France with the French Commune.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I shouldn't have gone too far back. I'm sorry, my time machine had a broken dial. It's my fault.
You make sure you have a little extra grease on that one knob. It seems to get a little loose every so often.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I loved how you called it. Bloom had the VAW XX, but it's the sleep. They're saying, well, come on, take it so we can all move on. They think
right.
the reason why everything is stuck right now is because and not everybody got it.
Yeah.
That's they're just and then so they're seeing everything is fine, everything is okay. It's just us holding everyone back.
Well, and again, this is what I mentioned on the podcast earlier today, that we need to be coming from a place of compassion, because this
Yeah,
is how at their core, these are good people. These are
Yeah,
people that
yeah,
have good intentions, given
yeah,
the information that they have, that they believe, they feel as though this is truly what's needed in order to get people back on board. If it wasn't for the media kind of even sowing division in terms of like race, most people are
yeah,
good people. Most people are not racist.
yeah.
There was a really good Babylon Bee video. They have their own YouTube channel now, and they've been kind of sending
I
me
think I
on
know which
that.
one you're talking about.
They're talking about like the KKK members. Is that the one that you're thinking of?
Yes.
And they were saying like, man, we need to take like a course on how to be racist in 2021, because apparently just inherently being white means that you're racist now. Or they were showing they did a separate video of, they would type in a random noun and then type in the word racist, and there would be a news article validating how this is racist. And they did like starfish, and someone wrote a book on how starfish are racist, and they did it on chairs, and like any random word you can think of, and somehow it would be tied to racism.
There was
And so
there.
anyway, so it's KKK
Well,
one.
yes, I mean, but chairs are racist. I mean, they're racist against the ones with 2 arms and no arms.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, but I think there was a whole article I was reading about, there was a particular bridge. I think it was in South Carolina. I might be wrong, but the bridge apparently being cobblestone in design apparently was racist to those who are not able to do basic masonry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
This is what I mean.
I-
It's sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
no, I don't understand how I don't think I think we're using that. What was that from? I think it was the Princess Diaries.
Yeah.
I think it's what was his name? Ignacio, I think his name was. Uh, he was saying, I don't think you know what you. I don't think that's the way you're thinking. I don't think the way you're describing that word is what it actually means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what you
Exactly.
I gotta find that clip somehow.
That was from
Princess
well,
Diaries.
yeah, yeah, but they also they had it in Anchorman. Remember when he was talking about what San Diego means?
Yes.
Right? He's
Yeah.
like whales. I can't say the word. And then they're like, no, I don't think that is a definition of San Diego. Oh yes, it is. You know.
No, the only thing.
So I think the idea here is that these people are well-intentioned. They're just horribly misinformed. And so if this is their frequency and the energy that they're bringing to it, of fear, anger, being like a Karen, saying, just do it already, stop being selfish so that we can all move on with our lives, you grandma killer. And if that's the energy there, and we match that with, well, we have scientific evidence that actually shows that you're wrong. No one's going to hear that at that frequency. They're just going to dig in and get more defensive and quote mainstream media articles, not science, right? Like masks was a good example. I had a friend that is a cognitive psychologist that I went to college with. A very smart guy, very kind of, we would have great conversations even back then. And I was like, this guy's going to go places too, And it was just so sad kind of seeing, having an exchange with him where I'm like, dude, I will show you the actual papers. Like I will find the scientific articles that concluded that, the masks don't, the typical mask that we wear, not the sealed N95, is useless, does nothing. If anything, there's arguments that it can be more harmful if people don't change it out and clean it and whatnot, and he ignored the entire 3 papers that I sent, and he picked out one line, one sentence, which was something along the lines of, even though our data clearly concludes, not even demonstrates, but concludes that masks we could argue even have deleterious effects, meaning negative effects, that we still encourage people to wear them in light of the pandemic of COVID-19. Well, why do you think that sentence was added? In order for it to get published, right? In these peer-reviewed journals.
It was CYA.
Yeah, exactly. It was total CYA. And he picked that one thing out. This is the cognitive dissonance. And he's like, well, then why would they include that sentence? I'm like, you know how research works. You know the politics involved with getting papers published. Like if that's not added in there during the edit phase, then you're not going to have a published paper, And I'm like, look at the actual data itself, dude, So
I don't think most people, when they talk about peer reviewed, they realize how that can be as subjective as actually the paper itself.
Because they will cherry pick information. They will cherry pick.
No, I'm not even going with that, Sue. I'm going with that whoever is peer reviewing is there is a panel of people who are chosen to peer review, and if that person likes you, they're going to give you the check mark. If they don't like you, and it doesn't even have to be the evidence in the paper, but if they don't like you as a person, they can just get rid of the paper altogether.
Wow.
This is where I think Trump did a lot of good in terms of exposing how extensive this deep state really is, right? That it's so entrenched in just everything from education in the halls of the ivory towers to Hollywood to the media. I mean, the list goes on. It's everywhere, filter down to your local school boards, and you're seeing that now with parents of like CRT, like, whoa, wait a minute. And then as soon as you stand up, now you're on a domestic terror list with the FBI. Like, really?
Yeah. You know what? Some of those parents are not even allowed to fly a plane now.
Yeah. Well, this is, unfortunately, it's like what the team said. Sometimes you can't tell the people, you have to show the people.
Yeah.
So all of this kind of heat being turned up from a big picture is unfortunately a necessary evil in order to have people say, whoa, wait a minute, not on my front steps. I don't care if I see it on TV, but there was a phrase going around a few years ago in the Portland area because they wanted to add a new highway system on the west side. And it was in this kind of beautiful valley that was just kind of scenic and had been protected and everything. And everyone fought against it. And those that were mad that it didn't go into place, they argued that the people who were against it were using the phrase, not in my own backyard. And so that became its own acronym that then they would use to sow further division against their neighbors who had voted against it. And so the principle here is not as long as it affects me. If it doesn't affect me, that's the human nature, I suppose, necessity of things, then I don't really care what happens. And so now you're seeing the heat being raised and cranked up to 11 to now, like, let's take lots of Europe, right? That as of recently, I believe Austria was one of them. Now everyone's mandatory, right? You have to take it. And in South Africa, Victoria had some friends that just came back. They came back 2 or 3 days ago, and they were there on vacation because, I don't know, their child was getting married or something. And they were lucky that they made it back when they did, because now they're going to shut down all the airports again. And Canada has gone along with it now, and you'll probably see it kind of further take place in other places. And this is, of course, going to be what a convenient rationale to further push more boosters, right? Yeah, I know. Remember how we originally said you only have to have the 2? Well, because of all these different strains, now we're going to have to start incorporating more of the boosters like they did with Delta. And do you think it's going to stop with this? Even if it wasn't intentional, viruses morph, they change. There's different. Look at the cold and flu. You can take a cold and flu
all the time,
shot, but it's not going to stop it. I mean, I finally convinced my parents to stop taking it because I'm like, every year that you take it, what happens as soon as you take it? Well, I get sick. And then I'm down for 2 or 3 days at least. And I'm like, isn't that the whole point of like why you're taking it, to avoid having that happen? And it was like this giant light bulb moment of like, oh, wow. I know that like you're smart, but you're also my son, And so I don't really want to listen to that. But now, like, you made logical sense. And so it's like, so from then on, they haven't taken it. Thank God, Now listen, I'm not saying that there might not be exceptions to those who need to take it. But at the same time, like the extent of just to the point that like sometimes they pay you to take it, like that's really got to question things, And I saw a great meme the other day, and it was just a clown kind of holding up a billboard, kind of, or a sign, just to kind of reflect on the idiocy of it all. But he's like, if this were truly a real big pandemic, to the degree that they're saying that it is, then why would you need to convince us of it? Why would you need to talk about it 24/7 or push so many people to get the jab? You'd have everyone and their mom lining up. You'd have everyone and their mom staying home, not out of fear, but out of precaution, out of like a real duty to protect yourself. You'd see homeless people in the streets just dying on the sides of the road. You'd have like hospitals so overrun, you wouldn't even need to try to push it in the news. Everyone would know. You would have the media focus more on positive things to counteract all of the dangers that were going on,
Yeah, well, I actually had a friend. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you mean no more TikTok doctor dancing?
Exactly. Great point. And that was a collage from all these hospitals all over.
I thought they were full to capacity and they didn't have any room, and they were not allowed to admit some people, even though when people actually went to these actual hospitals, they had so much vacancy that they had to close down certain wards because they didn't have enough doctors to cover them. So
I know. And I had mentioned a few weeks ago, I had a friend, and he went out and had met up with this person who is, I can't go into too much detail, but works for very large conglomerate companies, and was on doing a lot of like the accountant background stuff. And he was looking at, the cost ratios and how this affects, you know, hospitals and the bed usage and just all of the expenses that come from COVID. And he turned to my friend when they were out just getting a drink, and he's like, you know, this is all fucking total bullshit, right? And my friend was like, wow, because this guy's like very straight laced, got his act together, not some sort of, you know, conspiracy nut or anything. And for him to be that blatant with it all, there's, you know, some power in that anecdote. So, you know, I don't know.
It's almost like it's like when you were talking about turning up the heat a little bit. It reminded me of someone getting a fever, right?
Yeah.
You have to, in order,
Ooh,
when you're
good
first
metaphor.
sick,
I like that.
you get a fever, and that fever is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
In many cases, that fever is good,
Yeah.
because that is what's going to burn off whatever
Yeah.
whatever the infection is in the first place.
That's good.
And then
I like that.
you may be out for a little bit, kind of like the shutdowns.
Yeah.
We were shut down, so that was us in our fever
Right.
period of time. And then when everything opened up, that's when the fever broke.
Yeah.
And so what they're trying to do is trying to affect us with the same thing over and over.
Trying to recreate
and over
the
again.
fever.
Yeah.
But the problem is just like with the immune system, if you can't get the same exact strain twice, because you have the T cells that are already saying, well, you already had this. We know exactly how to deal with you.
So do the T cells represent the truthers?
Yeah.
T for truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like this. This could easily be turned into a meme.
Yeah,
That's like-
definitely.
But and it's funny is that like, even if you do get infected a second time, you'll notice that a person will have the shorter length of being out of commission. They'll be out
It won't
for,
be as bad.
like the first time they may be out for like 2 weeks, and the other time they may be out for maybe 4 days, and then after that it's 2 days, and then after that it's, I didn't even know I had that issue.
Yeah.
Because you just build up after a while that it just naturally prevents itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
They kind of, yeah. So to kind of
And-
go back with the whole not in my backyard thing, if I may, now there's a lot of things are happening to children, if not babies, you know what I mean, and infants. So a lot of the stuff, and first when things were happening, people's attitude was, well, phew, as long as it's not happening to my kid, we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it is seeing that it could affect your children, whatever it is, especially the people that are now trying to get their kids medicated, if you will, the ouchie, and it's and the kids are starting to get really affected very badly. The women who are pregnant, and they talked about the ones in Australia, it's having a stillborn it's not really, it's common, but it's more rare, and now it's becoming more of a common thing, and especially if you get the ouchie while you are pregnant. And so if it's not that, then if they didn't get it, then apparently then it's talking about the spike proteins that are affecting you and the baby, even though the amniotic fluid sac is supposed to protect the baby from all kinds of whatever foreign invaders, the point of it. But apparently it's no match for the needle, and it's no match for whatever else has been floating around. And I think the reason why is if your body likes to have practice on whatever is out there. So if it doesn't get the practice, this is a new thing, and it's being shoved in your body, if not towards your body, and it's not used to it, and then you're carrying a baby. That's a lot of work right there. That's like fighting on 2 fronts. So it can be very stressful on the body.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just that, but you also have the issue with the viability of the child after as they're born. We're seeing many cases of this happening where the child is born, but then they pass away relatively shortly due to the fact that something was introduced to the mother. Because I don't know exactly what the science and studies were about this. These are just through I was just reading an abstract of what was going on, but it had something to do with the fact that it was dealing with the blood barrier, something like that.
Do Did we lose him?
Yeah, I think the CCP doesn't like us talking about this. You
So-
froze.
Comrade,
froze.
you cannot say those words.
We didn't get a chance to hear what you said.
Why are we we were saying CCP, but you said it in a Slavic accent, in a Slavic tone.
Because when I think of communists, I think of Russia. I don't think of China. That's why.
Which is funny because historically those two cultures hated each other.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well,
You know,
actually,
it's funny because it's
the
like
CCP hates everybody.
Yeah.
no. I'm talking the USSR and the CCP hate each other
Yeah.
back when the USSR was a thing,
Right.
because it was all about I could be more communist than you could be,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
Yeah, how's the communist contest going? How's that working out for everybody?
Well, guess what? We know how it ends, Sue. Everybody
Yeah.
loses.
Yeah. And I know I'm
Which-
waiting for that white flag to be
Just-
up, but I guess it's not gonna happen.
oh well, it takes a little bit of time. It's gonna be we said all those things in that, but
Uh-oh, you might want to drop the video.
we did.
Yeah.
How's that?
But now we can hear you.
Yeah. You want to try again?
Now you can.
Mhm.
I think they're picky on what we talk about.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh.
All right. Well,
Oh,
let's not
singer
let's
broken.
not talk about that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something else, shall we?
Yeah.
Do we have
So you
anything
wanted
else
to-
on our
I wanted to
docket?
Let's
actually,
talk about Linwood.
Oh, good. Yes, I wanted to.
that's actually what I wanted
Yeah.
to bring
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
I've been following that for the last day and a half, and it's been getting very interesting as of late.
Uh-huh.
Because so it all started back on Monday, back when Kyle was being interviewed by Tucker Carlson.
Yep.
And saying about, Linwood did this for his personal gain.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to my mind was, oh wait, Linwood's is a defamation lawyer. He knows how to deal with these things. So if he's being defamed right now, he's going to be able to clap back almost instantly.
Mm,
That's what he practices.
yeah.
And so now the thing that he's going after is not Rittenhouse, because he believes that he's being I think the way was is that he was being conditioned because
Uh-oh.
big tech and big condition while he was currently dealing with the charges that pressed against him.
Mhm.
Now, the person he actually went after two people, and two people I'm really surprised that which was General Flynn and the reason why he brought up Patrick, he's connected to the CFR.
We need the Jeopardy
Yeah.
theme song playing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do we want to put on elevator music?
I know, right?
Yeah. Well,
Have you been
while we
following
wait-
it, Sue? Do you know
What
what's
about
going
what elevator music do you need?
on? Oh, now he's back.
yeah. There we go.
Router,
we were.
router cellular thing. They must have
So
applied.
we missed what you were saying there, Alex. So
Yeah. So you're gonna have to
I
kind
know
of
he
start
was
all
on
over.
Tucker. Tucker had asked him about, things, and he said, yeah, well, Basically, what had happened was Lynn had
Yeah,
suggested that he go into the media, which
yeah.
was a bad idea, and that the $1 million plus that he raised through the GoFundMe, he ended up Lynn ended up taking it and not giving the rest to Kyle. And then he also could have gotten him out of jail by September, and he stayed until like mid-November or something like that.
Well, yeah, that was part of the argument. But then when you look at it from his point, what he was arguing was that the money did come in, but they weren't able to get him out until November, as in the release wasn't available until November.
I see.
There was a minimum amount of time he had to be in there,
Yeah.
and many people are like, "Oh, that Lindell let him out, had him get out by Thanksgiving,"
Right.
but Lindell was actually contributing to the GoFundMe as well. So
I
it
see.
was not him per se. It was he was assisting with this as much as anybody else.
Mhm. Mhm.
But no, he was recently going after two people I was really surprised about actually.
You said General Flynn was one of those.
General Flynn and Patrick Byrne.
And what was his rationale for going after them?
Well, he went after Patrick Byrne due to the fact that he found connections to him and the Committee of Foreign Relations,
Hmm.
and how they have all their connections with big tech, big, the big club, if you will.
Sure.
Um, there's a lot of other people I can name within that group of people, so I know, take your pick on that one. That one might be a little bit of a flimsy argument in my mind. It really
Yeah.
depends on how somebody does things, but more than that, he was concerned about how they were not doing too much when it came to things such as election integrity. How we really could be pushing all these things much harder than we are, but they're not doing anything as much. They're more of like that would kind of went into his snowballed into his argument with General Flynn, which was he is a big cheerleader, but he hasn't actually done anything on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and he was concerned about the America Project being a front.
Mm.
I and I'm not. He was also mentioning people like what's the representative from Georgia? I forgot her name.
My
Not
little spidey sense goes up when he starts going after General Flynn. I'd want to see some really hard proof in terms of why that's worthwhile going after him.
Well, I do know that he did bring out audio of a phone call that he had with Patrick about this on his Telegram. He has I think it's a 44-minute phone call. It has it separated into 4 parts.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like this interfighting amongst people personally.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of growing that needs to be done, but we also, I'm more concerned about how, you'll have these people kind of like infiltrate things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also because they didn't appreciate how we like talk about splits here earlier. I mean, there's a split on, yay, you gotta quit it. No, that's not good, and so we have these two sides that are going on, and I've noticed that this always have happened, but I noticed it's happening more within the last 3 to 4 years, especially with Trump, that if anything good happens to the side that the left is not happy about, they would do everything they can possibly do to smear the heck out of them, make them basically punish them for winning, for getting it through and whatever. And I'm kind of wondering if this is sort of what's going on. We still need a little baking and kind of finding out what's going on. I think we need to sit this one and kind of wait, let time kind of tell us
I
what's
agree.
going on. But it just sounds like to me that sounds like some sort of infiltration to basically punish the whole thing about what happened to Kyle. And I don't know if they're trying to muddy the heck out of the water because he won the case.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
Well, my issue is why would he call out Linwood?
yeah, I don't know.
Because I know there are so many different players in here, and they all have fantastic credit to them. But how much far can that credit go if you have a blemish on your record prior?
Yeah.
And you know, where does the trust lie? You know, who is honest and who's actually telling the truth?
It might not even be Kyle's fault the way he's telling the story. He could have had people, I'm just saying this is just a guess. I could totally be wrong, but he could have players in his story, as to put it, mess with him a certain way. So he's seeing it a certain way due to the whatever information that he's given. And if he's not given the whole story, then he's having a certain point of view of how he's seeing it. And it could be totally skewed because he's has information withheld from him or the wrong information presented to him. So any of those things. So it's not that I don't think Kyle is trying to start anything. I don't think, Kyle is trying to cook the goose in a pan with all the feathers still on it. I think that, that he may not, and he's still a kid. He's just a kid. So, and he may just be, he may just have had his, system, muddied up so badly that, I mean, he may not even totally know what's going on. He may think he knows what's going on, but he could have easily been had later on. So we'll just have to wait and see.
My biggest concern with all this, especially with the interview he did with Tucker, was first of all, why'd you go to Fox News? Because Fox News has a history of being just as bad as CNN in some cases.
Yeah.
But also, why did he not have one of his lawyers with him? If anything were to happen, having counsel there would have been very helpful in that situation, especially since he was just out. The acquittal only happened hours prior to the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there had been a possibility that he would have incriminated himself post verdict, and that is an easy way to recall you back to your charges.
Yeah.
Like that could be a taint. Oh, I forgot what that's called.
There may be a plan for that too. I don't know.
So he could have self-incriminated him after having an innocent, after being acquitted. So then the judge can say, "Wait a minute, you just said these things, so you admitted to these things on television."
Mm-hmm.
Well, remember what they said. This is a psychological warfare. So the easiest people they can pick on is young minds.
Yeah.
So who knows that this is one of their tricks and games there. Who knows if that is their agenda to drag him back into court? They talked about that they were going to try to get another round done.
Well, they wanted to press federal charges on him, from what I understand. They were thinking about doing that.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. They want to do another round. They want to throw him back in the courtroom. I mean, they have all kinds of things that they want to do. Remember, anybody from the left are sore losers, and they will make you pay for winning. They just do their thing.
And I think the other thing here as well, in addition to all of that, is that this is another example of how it has the potential to wake more people up. That you see very clearly how much media manipulation is going on. For a year, this became known as like this white nationalist, this racist who is going and, causing all this havoc and killing people with his assault rifle and everything. When in reality, the video is very clear that there was no one involved of a racial minority. And so being able to have that be presented, you have the evidence that was brought out in court, including one of the folks that testified in Rittenhouse's defense. Hello. And like he so put aptly, this isn't Kyle on the stand. This is the right to self-defense that's on the stand. And, so I guess where I'm going with all of this is that there's still a small percentage of people in all of these different scenarios that get whipped up and believe all these media lies. And then when the truth does come out, there are still impressionable people that are like, whoa, wait a minute, but how, what? For a whole year, I've been told one thing and now this happens. Like, wait a minute. It's kind of like, it reminds me of at the end of Mueller's investigation. Remember how it was a nothing burger, no obstruction, no collusion, all this sort of stuff that was whipped up for, a year, 2 years plus of Russia. And then come to find out like nothing. And then people are like, wait, what? Like, and even Rachel Maddow, she lost like 60 some percent of her fans like overnight, essentially, with all of that. So you're still seeing that play out. And I think, again, big picture with these sorts of scenarios, it's contributing to this awakening process. There's so much momentum. I mean, the podcast that I went on to today, the guy was like, tell me about what you see that's hopeful or inspiring or positive, because so many people are just looking at reality from not even just the media's point of view, but the price at the gas pump or the degree of inflation, or trying to just get a prime rib for Christmas. You got to order like 2 or 3 months in advance, and you still might not have it, and all these sorts of things. And I said, well, there's more hope now, but you got to know where to look. You have to know where to look. If you only read the 3D matrix affirming sources, then their intention, I was listening to a video, it was last night or the night before, and anyway, the commentator was saying the entire point behind MSM is to lead the sheep to slaughter. And I thought, wow, that was very kind of succinctly put. So if you listen to that, you are on your mental way to being taken to slaughter, the slaughterhouse. And so, I think it's this process of, we know where we stand. We've done the research. We don't have to get defensive or angry or try to convince anyone of anything, because what's the point? If they're going to wake up and see it, then they're going to see it on their own, And I think we're past that. I think now the call for people at our stage is to kind of shake that off. It's just noise, put it in the background, and return again, pivot your focus on what it is that you do want. Because there is a very powerful spiritual law that very simply says, where your energy is going to flow is based on where your attention goes. Or to put it more succinctly, energy flows where attention goes. Yeah. So if you are spending so much of the bulk of your, not just mind power and thought, concentration, energy, etc., but your energy, your emotion, the output that you have, then you're catalyzing, you're fueling this intention of the exact opposite of what you want. And it actually keeps things going, which, guess what? That's exactly what they want. They want us to do that, because that's what slows down the manifestation of 5D reality, you see.
Yeah, it can actually get to the point where you worry so much. And I've been having concerns because now I'm forced to homeschool my daughter, and it's just it's a choice that I made.
Yeah.
But here's the point: the worry apparently about her getting, the total jab, the whole worry about the forcing this issue on all the citizens in the United States is I guess has gotten to me, even though I kept trying to meditate and brush it off and say, look, everything's going to be fine. But there's still this concern in the back of my head so badly, I guess. And I wasn't aware that it was badly. I thought I was kind of starting to, turn the temperature down so the pot wouldn't be boiling so hard. I kept turning it down more in my meditation and try to bring it down to a simmer to hopefully to turn it off entirely so that it would wholly cool down. But I thought that that's what I was doing. And then when I went to bed, I slept. And my dream was basically all about trying to escape the needle. And it was a point where my daughter ended up in a school, and she came home and she was a little dizzy, not feeling good. I was pissed off, and I went straight to the school and I said, did you give my daughter the jab without my permission? And I basically cornered, I guess, one of the people that were in charge of the school, and she was huddling in the corner, standing, freaking out. And I said, I need to know. And she just kind of shook her head like in complete fear, like, yeah, we did. And I don't know why in my dream I did this, but I said, I love you, it's okay. And I gave her a hug and walked out. It was interesting. I don't know entirely what that dream meant, but I was so raged for a second. After she admits she did, somehow it disappeared. But it's just, these are concerns, because it's like, this is my kid, and what do we do? Yeah. It's the same, it's, and I think it's just the walls are closing in, because even now, we're experiencing a pinch, and it's almost like you want to say, I'm one of the awakened. Don't affect me. I get it. I'm awake, but here we are. It's affecting us. It's kind of like the plague that we see in the Bible during Moses' time. The plague, even though the people that were warned and stuff like
Yeah.
that, the plague affected everybody. The
Right.
red blood water went through the whole town. It went
Yeah.
everywhere. Even
Yeah.
if the ones who are aware, are faithful, are good, it affects everyone. And they say that the rain will fall on everyone, the just
Just
and the
in the
unjust
unjust.
alike.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's just that somehow this is even affecting the people that are really, really
Oh,
good.
yeah.
And I'm not talking about that there's good and better and really good people. I'm just saying that the people that are awake and are aware that we are feeling the whole thing, because even now, my husband's job is now on the line. And it's a scary thought to actually
Yeah.
not have income.
I
It's
know.
a very, very scary thought. And it's like, what do we do? And, it's just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the board is answering to a higher power that's, that easily can hurt us. So now, on one hand, I'm worried about my daughter possibly having something, I guess, done, perhaps behind her back. The
Mhm.
other hand, my husband's, job is on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stress. And I'm trying to find a way to simmer that pot down and
Mhm.
turn it down, because I said everything in the end has to be okay, one
Right.
way or the other. Because if I was able to say okay to the lady in my dream,
Yeah.
then that means it has to be telling that I got to put myself in front of all this and say, look, whatever's going on, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind
Right.
of the same thing. I was joking the other day with one of my friends and said, metaphorically, everything will work out. Did you know that even if you eat bad food or good food, it all comes out in the end, the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
spot? So it's going to work out, So
Mhm.
it's going to work its way through whatever happens.
Mhm.
So it's just, but so I mean, my message to everybody is, don't worry so hard.
Yeah.
Just really, really don't worry. We're just gonna have that. That's why we need to not only be awake, but we need to depend on each other. Both the people who are asleep depend on us to kind of look after them, as to put
Mhm.
it.
Right.
It's kind of like they're on this different level. And it's almost the same thing. It's kind of a child. You know, um, my daughter has no idea how to handle certain things, so she depends on me for the answers.
Mhm.
And sometimes she will argue with me as if I don't know the answer, like she will disagree with me and say, no, that's not how we do things. Well, that doesn't sound like it's gonna work. Trust me, it'll work. And we're having the same problem between the sleeping and the awaken.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. At the end of the day, it comes back to the same thing, which is there is a universal principle that taps into this understanding of a law or principle about energy, which is whatever it is of the signal that you put out, that you broadcast out, is going to eventually boomerang back. The universe is like a mirror. So the question becomes, like what we talked about last week. So, like what you were saying in the cave, if you put out a certain frequency with sound, then you're going to have those same words echoed back. So, what are you putting out? So, everyone's going to have their version on some intensity level of like what you're going through now,
Yeah.
whether if it's finances or relationships or health or something else. We're all going through a pinch on some levels. And so the question remains the same as it will be from now till the day we die, whether we're dealing with COVID or a different catastrophe or even good things that are happening. And we want good to turn to great. It all comes down to, what is the frequency that I'm putting out? What is the message? If I put out a frequency of fear or of anger or of lack or of a hypothetical that I'm playing out my mind, but then having it feel in my body to where emotions are now getting involved and it's becoming a present moment reality, because body only knows present moment. Mind is what travels to past and future. That now what I'm doing is I'm alchemizing. I'm using the laws of the universe. I'm using the principle of manifestation, but in the opposite direction of what I want. So I have to be purposeful with saying, okay, wait a minute. I know what I want, but I also know what I don't want. And I get the choice of, do I focus on fear or faith? Which side of the coin? What I don't want or what I do want? So when you catch yourself starting to go to those places that are scary or uncomfortable or have the sea of question marks that we're wading through, then it's important for us to practice that mindfulness, to just pause and take a step and say, okay, wait a minute, which end of the stick, as Abraham Hicks would say, am I looking at? And then if I need to make that pivot, then make that transition. Okay, so now that's not the signal I want to put out. I want to put out a different broadcasted message because I want that to come back to me. So you got to reverse engineer it. What is it that I want? How will I know when I've had it? Not just physically in my hands, but how will I know energetically? What will be the emotions that I'm going to feel once it's here? Am I going to feel relief? Am I going to feel excitement or passion? What am I going to feel? And that's what faith is all about. Then you're moving beyond 3D reality of this Newtonian world that we, cause and effect and whatnot. We're saying, no, I'm moving beyond that. Otherwise, I'm just going to recreate this like a treadmill over and over again. And then I'm not a conscious creator. So I've got to move beyond that trap. And I have to focus on the frequency of that which I do want once it's finally here. And if I put out that long enough, then eventually that reality is going to translate from a higher dimension on energy where it already exists down to boom, it's here now.
Right. And that's why, when I meditate, if there's any worries or concerns I have, I picture myself taking that word concern and put it in a pot. Put that worries and concern in a pot of boiling water that's, really boiling, like hopping mad boiling, and then simmer it down, turn it down, and until it's completely off. And then you watch the liquid cool down. And that's just one way to, just let it know and know, as you say, breathe a sigh of relief. Everything will work out. It will be okay. Another exercise would be a storm. Put all your intentions and all your upsetness, everything that's negative, just build it up in the sky, and it starts to turn into a dark cloud, and it just builds and builds until it accompanies the sky. Now you imagine a wind pushing it away, and you know that all of this is making it more distant, making your fears more distant, your concerns more distant. So there's other ways there's many different ways and many different methods to kind of just bring it down and allow yourself to say, once you bring the water down to a complete cool or make the clouds go away, then you say to yourself, these things are just going to have to run itself through. You're going to have to say to yourself that it will be okay. It just will be. And then put out your intentions of something positive about it after that. So now you finish it off by something positive. My daughter has two parents that loves her very much. And we are going to do everything we possibly can to keep her safe. And it says that's the same thing with every parent. Every parent out there that we have seen with this whole ridiculous demic that's going on they're very good parents. They want the very best for their children, and for whatever information that they are given, they're going to go with that and decide what's best for their kid. Nobody's going to stand there and say, here's some poison, I'm killing my kid. Nobody's going to do that. These parents are trying to do the best they can, and unfortunately the information, as you said, given to them isn't always the best set of information. And even when it's like has fear and how did Yoda said it in Star Wars about what fear leads to? Do you remember his phrase? I don't remember exactly how it went.
Fear leads to anger.
Was it
Anger leads to hate?
That one. Yeah, that one.
Fear leads to anger. Hate leads to suffering.
And suffering leads to the dark side. So
Yes.
So it's been a while since I quoted that. Star Wars fan. But anyway, it's and so we have a lot of parents are afraid. They're afraid of, there's one side that's afraid of the CRT. There's the other people that are afraid when it comes to different races. There's people that are afraid about, the ouchie stuff that's going on. There's people that are afraid. They don't want anything to happen to their children when they put the mask on. Some of them, and then there's the other side that they're afraid of, the kid dealing with the kids that do have the ouchie, the VAXX, then and they keep their kids away from those kids. And I mean, there's divide. We have to stop being afraid and figure out a way to solve this instead. And I'm seeing some fractions and groups trying to come up with ways to solve this. But unfortunately, right now, I'm seeing more that are playing the "you stay away from my kid" type
Yeah.
of thing, and it's unfortunate. And so I think we're still, I guess we're letting all of this try to go through, and hopefully this will simmer down, and we'll have a chance. You know how they say cooler heads prevail. So we need people that kind of cool off, and I think that's where my dream was talking also about allowing for a cool off point.
Guys, I gotta go. It
Yeah.
was lovely chatting with you all. You can continue on if you want.
Okay.
But
Thank you very much
have a great
for
rest of your
coming.
night, and hi to everybody out there
Yeah,
watching. And we'll chat with you soon.
awesome. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Take
Thanks
care,
so much.
doctor.
Bye.
Actually, I think this might be a good time to round things out. Actually,
Yeah, I
as
didn't
I
know if you
recall.
wanted to kind of rehash the whole Lynn Wood thing since you kept cutting off on that. So we
No,
can
it's fine. I could pick it up a
the
little
next
bit
week.
later.
Yeah,
I'm still,
yeah,
I'm still,
absolutely.
I'm still learning about this. It's still relatively new, so
Yeah,
I like to give this the 48-hour rule, and if anything else happens, I can follow up next week.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm sorry your internet's kind of working on a hamster wheel. We got to attach it to a cheetah.
No. I just got to be a good member of the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
Um, All right. Do you have anything else we wanted to add?
No, I think we're good for the night. What do you think?
Yep,
I'm
I
good.
think so.
Alrighty, guys.
All right,
Uh,
so this is HeartMind Expression, and I want to thank for all of our sponsors, for iEvolveTV and Savvy Closing Line, and I want to thank everyone, viewers, for tuning in and watching the show, and have a good weekend.